Groote Schuur minutes, comma, Pretoria minutes, okay, violences, because before we go to CODESA 1, there are violences, which is ANC and AFP members, on the commuter train. So that's why I'm saying after Pretoria minutes, you are going straight to violences. After violences, you go to CODESA 1, and then before CODESA 2, we have what? We have whites only referendum, and then we go to CODESA 2. Let us just end here. So when you write your introduction, first part, you take a stance. Second part, you explain why did you take that stance. And then the third part, you give an orientation. You are going to mention all the paragraphs that you're going to use in your essay. For instance, I said this essay will further elaborate more on the release of Nelson Mandela, Groote Schuur minutes, and then Pretoria minutes, violences, CODESA 1, whites only referendum, CODESA 2. You need to outline each and every paragraph that you're going to use in your essay. Because in history, we don't have mind map. Our mind map comes here on the third step. Now, sharp. Let us go straight to content. Paragraph number 1. So when we get to paragraph number 1, we're going to talk about what? Already we mentioned. We're going to talk about the release of Nelson Mandela. We're going to talk about what? The release of Nelson Mandela. And then, this release of Nelson Mandela, we're going to link it back to commitment. It's either it's commitment or compromise. So when we write this release of Nelson Mandela, we must be able to identify whether when Nelson Mandela was released, was it an agreement or was a responsibility from the NP. Now, let us look at our first paragraph. On 11 February, when I write my paragraph, I always say on 11 February, Nelson Mandela and other, okay, I'm sorry guys, okay, let me start it from here because I did not link it to the question. So let me link it to the question. On 11 February, during that time, NP was led by F.W. de Klerk. F.W. de Klerk showed commitment by releasing Nelson Mandela, and other political prisoners. And then sharp. Now you further elaborate and say the release was unconditional. Full stop. Now on 11 February, now we know that F.W. de Klerk showed what? Commitment. Where do we get the word commitment? The word commitment comes from our question, whereby they say explain to what extent commitment. Now you see I've taken the word commitment and brought it back to our paragraph, and this makes the paragraphs to have what? To link back to our question. So now on 11 February, FW de Klerk showed commitment by releasing Nelson Mandela and other political prisoners. The release was unconditional. Now we need to go further and understand why was Nelson Mandela and other political prisoners released. This was because this was due to internal and external pressure on the government to end apartheid. Now, why was Nelson Mandela and other political prisoners released? It was because in South Africa, if you remember, during the 1980s, there was crisis. South Africa was ungovernable. So, the government, and then the government changed from P.W. Botha, and then P.W. Botha was replaced by F.W. de Klerk. When F.W. de Klerk came to office, now he does what? He commit himself to do what? To release Nelson Mandela and other political prisoners. Why was Nelson Mandela and other political prisoners released? It was because there was internal and external pressure on the government to do what? To end apartheid. Now, you are done with your first paragraph. And when you look at your paragraph, the paragraph links back to the question because it's talking about what? Commitment that was made by F.W. de Klerk. I don't know if you understand. Sharp. Let us go to the second paragraph. I'm going to give you another question and then show you how we link these questions. Now, let us go to the second paragraph. We say we are going to talk about what? The Groote-Schuur minutes. Second paragraph, we're going to talk about the Groote-Schuur minutes. Now, let us go to the Groote-Schuur minutes. Okay. Now, when you start with your Groote-Schuur minutes, you need to know both sides. You need to know both sides. Now, we're going to talk about the meeting between the ANC and the NP. Now, we're going to talk about the meeting between we're going to talk about the meeting between the ANC and the NP. Now, before we go to the meeting, now we need to go back to the question and understand whether this meeting is going to be commitment or compromise. We're going to see whether this is commitment. But when they met in Groote-Schuur, there were agreements that they made. And agreement, I said, what it's what? It's compromise. When you agree on something, when you compromise, you are doing what? You are agreeing on something. So now, meaning Groote-Schuur is going to be what? To be a compromise. Now let us go to Groote-Schuur. In May, I think it was May. Correct me if I'm wrong. In May 1990, I think it was May. Yes, I think it was May, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I think it was May. In May 1990, ANC led by Nelson Mandela, and NP it's the National Party, NP led by FW de Klerk met in Cape Town, Groote-Schuur. So this Groote-Schuur, guys, it's a place, met in Cape Town. Sorry to write the T in small letter, They met in Cape Town, Groote-Schuur. So I'm going to put it in summary. I'm not going to write full information and then explain what I want to know. Our main focus is what? It's on commitment and compromise. So